Hi, everybody. So I originally recorded this episode that you're going to be listening to today, I believe in 2021. A lot has changed in my own personal life, but something that hasn't changed is what I believe is right in this world. And that is for everybody to be treated equally. If somebody feels as if they are born in the wrong body, who am I or you to judge their rights, how they live their life? As you listen to this story and how painful it is for Rebecca to share what she's been through, I hope that you listen to this with an open mind. Maybe you don't believe in trans rights, or maybe you are anti-LGBTQ+. I don't think you probably are if you're listening to me, because you know I'm very supportive of that community. My very best friends happen to be gay, and I consider myself, as I joke all the time, a gay man trapped in a woman's body. That's a joke. But I just believe everybody should be treated equally, as the Bible says, which I think a lot of very right-wing Christians seem to be saying all the time. Quoting the Bible, I will also quote the Bible that says, love thy neighbor. And when you say love thy neighbor, that means whatever your neighbor is, black, white, gay, Hispanic, orange, green, whatever they are, love thy neighbor. Treat each other with kindness. I hope you listen to this episode with an open mind. I hope that you learn something from Rebecca's story and what it's like for her as a mother of a trans child. And like I said, it's just an extremely important topic during the month of Pride that I reshare this episode. Lastly, I will be taking some time off in the month of June. So I'm going to have a few new episodes coming out, but I need a little break. I need a little rest for summer. My kids are getting out of school. And I'm going to be shuttling them to and from camps, and I just need a break. I need a break. So I love all of you. I am so grateful each and every week to you that you listen to me and you support me, and you either are on Patreon or you leave me a review on Apple, whatever it is. But I always am so thankful to have this platform and sending each and every one of you love. And again, this is a very special episode. I hope that you listen to it with an open mind. I hope that you also send me feedback. Love hearing from you all. And that's it. We've all been put here for a reason, and we all deserve acceptance.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.
I'm a trauma survivor from a really young age, and I have been diagnosed with complex PTSD in the past few years. I've been surrounded by death and abuse much of my life. I've been dragged through the mud and have been to the point of not wanting to go on anymore. Through my interviews with other survivors, I've learned that there is a way out. From recovering to surviving and thriving, we all have the strength to come out the other side.
You are listening to Judging Meghan.
Well, hello, everybody. I would like to introduce my guest. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
You look so pretty.
Oh, thanks.
It's so nice. You do look pretty. It's nice to see you. Rebecca and I were neighbors many years ago, right? I mean, God, that was like a decade ago, right?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
2010.
Yeah. It's crazy. Over a decade. And she is also originally a Washingtonian, Virginia, right? You were
correct.
You're from Virginia, and it's now called the Washington Football Club, but a former NFL cheerleader, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And I'm having Rebecca on because her story is a pretty cool, interesting. I don't know if I want to say cool, but I think it's cool because I think her putting the word out into the world about what it's like to be a parent of a trans child is so important. And I reached out to her because I love following her on social media and seeing her daughter shine. And I just asked her if she would come on my podcast and try to tell the story of what it's like coming to this place with her child and getting the word out on what it's like being a trans parent. And I'm just so grateful and lucky to have you on today. So welcome.
Thanks. Thanks so much for having me.
So why don't we start with, you have 2 children, right?
Correct. I gave birth to 2 boys.
Okay. So, and the ages?
Let's see. Well, Star's birthday is today. So she just turned, she's 8. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Eli's 6.5. So they're 16 months apart.
Okay. Gosh, that's so close. And Star is your oldest child that is trans, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And why don't you tell me about, because I remember Star as a baby, because you moved away and we moved to a different city, but I haven't seen you in years. I mean, we've kept in touch via social media, but why don't you tell me what it was like, just like starting out, like in Star's life, like how she came into the world and when you knew that something was, I'm not going to say different because I don't want to say different. I want to say special. Are you good with that?
That's what we use.
Yeah.
That's
special.
what we use. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because I don't like describing somebody as different. Yeah.
I'll explain to you how I explained it to her.
Okay.
Well, first of all, she was born Lucas Michael. And as she became, so even now when we refer to her before she transitioned to a girl, we still call that the toddler Lucas. So I'll say, Star, come look at this picture of Lucas when he was 3. So basically anything from like 5 and above, she was Star. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of like talking about a child that no longer exists, but she feels comfortable with that. So that's cool with us. So I noticed around, I was probably pregnant with Eli. So around the 16 to 18 months, I would notice that we had toys, but they were mostly all educational toys. As a teacher, I didn't really know how to play. So I only knew how to teach. And, but then I got I think he got some cars as a gift. And I remember he did not want to play with these cars. And I didn't know what to do with them, to be honest. I remember at the time calling my husband, Lucas wants to play with these cars and I don't know what to do with them except for roll them on the ground. Is that all you do with toy cars? And my husband was like he was giving me these ideas, like what to do. And I was like, oh, okay, well, so I did that, but Lucas did not care. So anyways, but I did notice that we had a few neighbors around us that had little girls with very close in age. And whenever we would hang out with them, Lucas always wanted to play with their toys. Well, that's kind of normal because even now, kids, when they go to somebody else's house, they want to play with their toys instead of their own, Yeah, yeah. And so, he was the only boy in our little circle. And we just thought, oh, he's playing with the girl toys because that's what my friends have, because they have girls. Well, anyways, that continued though. And I guess when he was a little over 2, we moved back to Virginia. And we had a bigger house, which means we got more toys. Yeah. And he was not interested in any of them. And I felt so bad. I'm like, oh my God, does my kid have depression because he doesn't like to play with anything we have? Whereas, as Eli was getting older and wanted to play with things, he wanted what you would consider boy toys, Lucas was more interested about like picking up a purse and carrying, Yeah. But who am I to judge at that age? I'm like, they're kids. I don't care, Yeah, because a lot of kids play with, like Sophie would play with cars and trucks when she was little. So I wouldn't think of like that being any different than other kids. Correct. Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. And then I guess just as he got a little older, his favorite color was always purple. Okay. But again, who cares? They're like little kids. And I guess, you know what? We went on vacation and Lucas picked out a hat and a shirt that he wanted from Hawaii, but they were sparkly and had flowers on it. And Lucas put the hat on. He's like, this is the one I want. This is the one I want. And my husband and I kind of looked at each other and we were like, well, let's pick out something else instead. Yeah. No, this is the one I want. And so we're like, well, you know what? There's not a lot of choices here. So let's go to another store. You might find something better you like. Well, she wanted that hat and shirt so bad, she decided to get nothing at all. And like, I felt so bad. So I got her a shirt anyways.
Yeah.
And it was a blue shirt. It was a boy's shirt. As opposed to a girl's shirt.
What age was that when you were in Hawaii?
That was when he was 4.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you were starting to see more and more signs of just not the toys, but then, the going to Hawaii was probably a point where you were like, okay, what's going on here? I mean, I'll be honest with you. Sophie was like, wanted to wear like soccer jerseys as a little kid. But I understand the difference where you're like, wait a second, you're not adding up, meaning you didn't want to have anything to do with what the other kids of the same sex were into, correct? Meaning clothing, meaning toys, anything.
Well, we just thought it was a little, not odd, that's not a good word. Weird's not a good word, but I guess, I don't know. We just weren't used to that. Like, I didn't know what to do. And my husband was definitely like, no, he's not getting that. Yeah. And I was like, it's just a shirt. Or how about just the hat? My husband was like, absolutely not. I'm like, okay. And I remember that year we went to the doctor for a wellness check. And I talked to the doctor about it in the hall before she came in. She goes, oh, sweetie, so many kids are like that at this age. I remember my daughter, she always wanted to put on, I'm sorry. I remember my son always wanted to dress up in my daughter's clothes, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, the problem is I don't have a girl. So, and you know what else it was? Around the house, Lucas always liked to dance around the house. Okay, guys dance too. But it was just very prissy. In the old days, it's what, at school, it's what kids would be like, that kid is gay. Mm-hmm. Like if we were back in the day. But she's been like that since she was 4 or 3, as long as I can remember. And so, the doctor was just like, oh, that's normal for this age. I'm like, okay, so maybe it's just a phase. And my husband and I were like, well, this phase has already been going on for 2 years, but okay, whatever. We're just going to go with the flow, Then right around 4, we always rock them before we went to bed. We'd read a story and rock them. And both kids. And I remember Lucas he started telling me at night that he wished he was a girl. And I was like, huh? And he was like, yeah, like you, mommy. I'm like, sweetie, do you know how cute you are as a boy? Like you are just a doll baby, And I would name all these awesome things about him. And he was like, so I still want to be a girl, mommy. And I want long hair like yours. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. But I never say anything bad or mean or like, that's not okay. Or boys don't do that. I never said anything like that.
Well, that just shows what kind of a good parent you are, by the way.
Thanks.
You're a good mom. Yeah.
But at the time also, of course, I would never want to hurt my child's feelings, but, and it's at bedtime. I don't want him to go to bed being sad about anything, so It was both of those. So he said that to me. It got more often at nighttime when he would say that to me. And it was funny because my husband would be like, well, he's never mentioned that to me. And I was like, I'm telling you, he has mentioned that to me lots of times. So I don't know why Lucas never mentioned it to his dad. But I don't know. So then I remember, he started kindergarten still as Lucas, but he really, for back to school shopping, he really wanted these sequins shoes. They're definitely girl shoes. So I let him get them. And he wore them to school the whole year, basically. And then he also got these little pink kitty cat shoes. And so but he's like the nicest kid, right? So it's kind of weird because some kids would look at him weird. And mind you, I worked at the school that he went to.
Okay, so just to backpedal a little bit, you are a teacher, correct?
Correct, right.
Okay, so what grade do you teach?
I'm an elementary school teacher, so okay. I teach all the grades. I haven't been, the last 4 years, I've been teaching technology in elementary school.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And how was at this point going into kindergarten, letting him be who he is and wearing the shoes? How was your husband? How is Kevin reacting to this? It must have been difficult for him at this time.
Yeah, it was difficult for him. And I mean, he ended up getting used to it after, I don't know, a few months when I guess both of us didn't want anybody to make fun of or tease or bully Lucas, Yeah. So that was kind of our biggest thing. But then after a few months and I'm at the school, so I'm carefully watching, everything was great. There wasn't anything to be worried about, right? Now, then after the winter break of the same year, he was in kindergarten, some people, so I actually taught his class technology. And so some of the classmates would raise their hand, Miss Nara, is Lucas a boy or a girl? And I was like, a boy? Why? Well, I just didn't know. But why does he wear girls' shoes? I'm like, why are you wearing that shirt? And they look at me and I'm like, no, seriously, how come you're wearing that shirt today? Do you like blue? Like, yeah. And I was like, and Lucas likes sequins and sparkles. So I let him wear it. I'm like, oh, but he's a boy? Yeah. I'm like, okay. I got that a lot.
Okay.
From kindergarten and first graders.
Okay, but at least at that age, they're still open. That's totally. The thing that's wonderful about that age is they're open, and you could tell somebody, a small child, something at that point, and they still have the moral compass of being kind, right?
Right. Now, then there were a few kids that were teasing Lucas on the playground about his shoes, and Lucas told me, "Well, you don't mess with mama." So, and Lucas wasn't crying about it. He was just sad one day a little bit. I could just tell something was off. So he told me, I was like, don't worry, sweetie. I will talk to them. It'll be A-okay. Okay, So the next day I went to their classroom and I pulled them out into the hall and I just said, I heard that you were laughing at Lucas's shoes yesterday. He was like, huh? I was like, remember the pink shoes on the little boy? Like, yeah. I'm like, were you laughing at him? Yeah. And I was like, do you know that's my son? The looks on their faces.
Yeah,
and I was like, it doesn't matter if it's my son or not. Would you want somebody to laugh at you because they didn't like your shirt today? Looked at the shirt. I'm like, exactly. I was like, just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's funny or doesn't mean it's not okay to wear. They're like, oh, okay. And I was like, I really don't want to hear you tease or make fun of anybody else. Like, okay. So they went and then there was a first grader. So I just waited until I had her class and I talked to her as well. And
so you were dealing with kind of knowing that there was going to be some teasing and bullying and Lucas was different. What was the age where, not to skip ahead, but so that was kindergarten.
So spring break.
Yeah.
I took him to a store and I said, hey, it's just, I want to get you a few new clothes. So pick out what you want. And he ran to the girls section and picked out some items. And then so after spring break, he started wearing those items. And so he was basically he's been wearing all girl clothes since.
And did you ever, it sounds like, Star is so lucky because you are such an accepting parent. I read about the trans community often, and so many of these children are suicidal, different. My friend Brian, who was a guest on the show, he runs a LGBTQ plus community called The Source in California with a lot of trans teens. And it's just so sad to hear the stories about the parents that aren't accepting. So I would like to tell you how amazing you are that you were open to just letting Star be Star.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I gave myself one day to grieve over it.
Yeah. Was this spring break when you really said to yourself, did you go to like some sort of another doctor or something at that point, or was that down the line trying to understand for yourself how to be a parent to a trans child? Like, what was kind of the next thing once you realized, okay, Lucas is now Star? Was that shortly after spring break that the name turned into Star, or how did that kind of evolve?
So during that summer after kinder, we were talking about names, and I said, let's keep a list of all the names you like during the summer. And near the end of the summer, we're going to pick the one, you can pick the one you like. And so for first grade, she was going to a new school. So I said, so for first grade, you'll start out with the name that, we agree on, basically. So it was for us to all decide together, basically. And so she picked, one day she had like an epiphany. She's like, I know what I want my name to be. Oh my gosh, I know it. I was like, great. What is it? She goes, Shooting Star. And I'm like,
I want my name to be Shooting Star.
No offense, but
but it also is like a really cool stage name, right? Shooting Star.
I guess if you're a stripper.
I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
But
so I was like, but we could shorten it if you really like the name Star, because I have heard that a little bit. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. I was like, do you want that? Yes. I was like, okay, let's do it. So but what was hard was that when I used to call the kids, like to come to dinner or something, boys, come, dinner's ready. And so it took me forever to be able to say, instead now I say kids,
Yeah, you had to kind of train yourself. But
yes.
What, the amount of compassion that you as a human being have just by hearing this story, I'm being honest with you. I don't know if I would have been able to be so accepting, just being 100% transparent with you. If one of my children were like, Mom, I want to wear like all, football jerseys, and I want to go into the boys section, and I want to do this and that. I know myself, I would have bought it. And I don't know if I would have been so open about it. I probably would have tried to talk them out of it a lot. So I think it's amazing that you were so accepting. And so just were like, this is the way that it's supposed to be. Because I believe, and I know you believe this, I'm sure as well, that God kind of like doesn't necessarily like, we're souls, right? And sometimes souls get put into the wrong bodies, or they get put into like, they just, gay, straight, like gay people are gay. And I have a ton of gay people come on my podcast because I believe, I hate to quote Lady Gaga, but you're born that way, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's the same for no matter where your soul is, it's always your soul, and your body you could be put in the wrong body. So I really believe that. And I just want to give you kudos for the way that you dealt with it, because it's really amazing.
Well, basically, once she started wanting to wear the girls' clothing, I dove into research. I was watching anything and reading, everything and anything my hands on, so many books, blogs, videos, you name it. And I was looking it up, and I had to, and here's what it came down to. I'll tell you, there's nothing like going through all this research and learning all this information, and then seeing right in front of you the statistics of suicide rate, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So basically it comes down to two things. Do I want my kid to stay alive or not? Yes, of course I do. I love my child. So I will do anything and everything to keep my child alive. And so that's when people, like you were saying, well, I don't know if I could handle it. Well, if it comes up to that, if it comes down to those two things, then I'm sure most parents would say, I want my kid to live. Now it's not been easy because not everybody in my family has agreed with it, or my husband's family. And so it took some people longer than others. Some people still 3 years later use the wrong pronouns. and I correct them every single time.
Why don't you talk about what the correct pronouns are for people? Because I do have people that are listening to this podcast that could be prejudiced against the trans community. That's part of why I want to tell this story, because the definition of being prejudiced is really at the core of it is not understanding, right? And being afraid of it. So what are the correct pronouns that that people are supposed to use? I know the answer, but just tell people.
Basically, I mean, however a person identifies himself. So, she identifies as a girl. So she uses female pronouns, her, she, and it would be the same as if somebody was a boy. Now, there are some people that they're not sure which gender they identify with. And so they actually use the pronouns, them or their.
Yes.
And
non-binary.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
So let's talk about your husband. I mean, I know he has his own story of how he dealt with it, and this is really your story. But I mean, it is so, like, you guys have been together a long time. What was that like? It must have been difficult, and there must have been a lot of struggling on his end, because a lot of times, I hate to say this, but women are we're just the way that we are. We're more nurturing. I think for a man,
understanding.
Yeah. For a man, so many men just are like, I want to have a boy. Thankfully, my husband is not like that. But if he did have a son, I'm sure he would have been like, I want to have a boy. Boys, you play with cars. Boys play baseball. Boys do this. Right. What was that like for him?
It definitely took him longer to come around than me. I remember, Kevin would say things underneath of his breath to me, or just underneath his breath. I don't know if it was necessarily me, about Lucas at the time. And, I would have to say, don't say that. What if he just heard you? That's not okay, and we have to be his supporters, And so as I was doing the research, I would tell Kevin some of my findings, But I mean, that is hard, because you're right. Males see it differently. But at the same time, I had to explain to him, I'm like, this is new to me too. I don't know. I thought, to be perfectly honest, I thought that it was weird when I heard about other people being like that too. And I thought it was weird of my own first. I hate to use that word, but that's really how it was at the beginning. I was like, what is going on? And so luckily, what I have told my kids since day one is that every person in the world is different. Even the people in my household, we all have different colored skin. We all have different colored hair, different tones and variations. And so luckily that helped when this came out, because I'm like, Star didn't know that there's other people like her in the world. And so whenever I hear of somebody that does great things that's trans, I tell her. She's like, oh. And I've since, in the last couple of years, I've been in some trans parent groups. And so we have gone on several play dates with other kids around her age that are also trans. And it helps because, then she feels like it's okay. Like she feels more normal, And so I tell her, I'm like, some people aren't fast learners. So that makes them different. You are a fast learner. That's great. Some girls have different peepees. That's what we say. Privates.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's okay too. Okay. The only thing that is hard, I will tell you, one of the things is that now as she's getting older, so there is a thing called hormone blockers that typically transgender kids start around the age of 11. 10 or 11. And so, but until then, I mean, she's still growing, right? So like we just finished spring break. Well, poor thing. So it's hard for her to wear a bathing suit.
Yes.
Last summer we were on the beach and some lady made a comment to my mom. Just that "Oh, are those your grandsons?" And Star was wearing like a one-piece girl's bathing suit. And my mom said she was taken aback, but she was just like, "Yeah, yeah." It was
And
like, "Oh, okay."
she didn't know what to say.
Yeah, because she was
Yeah.
caught off guard.
Yeah.
Because she's like, Star identifies as a girl now, and she's dressed like a girl right now in a girl's bathing suit, and yeah. So that just made it known to us that, and she has a little bulge.
Yeah, and I'm assuming like she's going to begin to go through puberty, so she's going to begin to go through what does that look like moving forward? Is she going to start, like, how do you even transition? Do you wait?
So that's what the hormone blockers are for.
Okay.
It halts. It doesn't stop you from growing, but it halts the hormones that make you grow hair, make your voice change. So that's what I've talked to her about it already. I just told her there's medicine.
Yeah.
So she's excited about that.
Are you in therapy? Do you guys go to some sort of therapy?
So that's a good question. So Kevin and I went to a therapist, and he specializes in transgender, but usually in the area of teenagers and 20-year-olds, so young adults. But we went the first time because we wanted to meet him, and he was great, but it was still at the beginning of our journey. And so after that, he gave us some info that was fantastic info. But after that, we did not go to any more therapy. However, this past summer, Star met with him virtually on a weekly basis. And I have no idea what they talked about. But I know she really liked him. He's a great person, but we had not been to any more therapy in regards to it.
Okay. And I think it's amazing that you're so supportive and you're putting her in therapy and in these play groups. Do you talk to some of the other parents? Because I'm sure that I think I've seen you post stuff on social media about people being so judgmental and being mean about it. What is that like? It's almost like bullying, right? They're bullying you to say, like, how dare you let your child be trans? They're too young. They don't understand. What is that like? How do you deal with that?
It infuriates me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you don't know the situation. You don't know how the feelings are until you are literally in that situation. I mean, sure, some people are more
accepting.
Yeah, just
Okay.
they have more of that nature, I guess. So, but there's a lot of people that are like, no, that's weird, and God made everyone perfect the way they are, and and it's really hard when you have close family that also makes comments to you, and it's like, okay, I haven't said anything before, but at some point, enough's enough.
Yeah.
And so I
think it's interesting. Sorry to talk over you, but I think it's interesting what you just said, that somebody could say God makes people the way that they are. Yes, you're right.
Perfect that way.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
no. But it's like God made star.
Totally. Yeah.
What's interesting, and I'm sure I think you would agree with me, nobody would pick to go through this, right?
Correct.
It's right. Like, who would do that if they weren't meant to, if this soul was not meant to be
in a
different body? Yeah. I mean, it just baffles my mind.
Or like there's a lot of people that say, well, you encourage it. Oh, my husband used to tell me that. Well, you encourage the behavior. I said, why? How? I was like, just because I am a female? Oh, well, because you ask her what she would prefer, the boy or the girl thing. And I'm like, why does it matter which one she chooses? I'm trying to give her a decision.
Yeah.
A choice, And so that was hard for him as well, because he thought that I was enabling her. I had a few people telling me I was enabling her. And I'm like, I just didn't see it at all. I'm like, I just want my kid to be happy. I want my kid to have a happy childhood, you know? And for God's sake, I just want to keep my child alive.
Yeah. I I know that there are parents that, you know, when we talked about this a few minutes ago, and you said to me, well, I didn't really have a choice. It was let my child live or let my child die, you know, let my child live and be the way that they are. And that's so true. I don't think I could ever understand what it's like until I'm walking in those shoes, you know?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So moving forward, do you have kind of a plan? You know, I think it's amazing that you're in therapy, that Star is in therapy to talk about her feelings.
She's not in therapy anymore.
Okay.
She ended at the end of the year, the end of 2020.
Okay.
But she was okay with that.
Do you worry about like going into like middle school and high school and those years?
Yes. I'm already thinking like, okay, what certifications do I need to get so that I can teach at her middle school? What certifications do I need to get so that I can teach at her high school? So, but then there's the question of, well, am I being too much of a helicopter parent? But, you know, as time goes on, I have learned that if I can teach her to have the right tools to use when, you know, mean things are said, then that will definitely help, you know. And the thing is, her brother has always picked on her since she was little. And he was tackling her before he could walk. I kid you not. Well, she doesn't do anything back. She doesn't want to hurt a soul. Still to this day, he'll tackle her and she'll just say, get off me. Like she won't even try to push him off. So that's one of my worries, is that if somebody picks on her, she won't, I'm just afraid that she won't fight back, you know?
Like she's a perfect
because she doesn't want to be mean.
Soul. Yeah, she's a perfect.
Well, she's like a dainty little girl.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, she's by the way, beautiful. She looks just like you. I see her picture.
She is my mini me.
Yes. She's your mini me.
Yes.
Something I wanted to ask is, you know, because I have an audience of people that are listening and curious and don't know, might not know a lot about this subject. If you could go backwards in time, would you have done it the way that you've done it? Like all of the choices you've made? Is there anything, like say there's somebody out there that's listening that is kind of going through the same thing you did? Is there any advice you would give to that person?
Yeah, I wish, like when we were in Hawaii when she was 4, I wish I would have been okay with her getting the hat and the shirt that she really wanted. And because even if it was a phase, who cares? You know, and you know, she wanted to grow her hair out. And so many people in our family, you know, were against that. And I'm like, it's hair. We can cut it at any time. And in fact, she did want to cut it at one point. So we did. And then she had to start all over again with, you know, growing her hair out, which was A-okay also. But, you know, kids are only kids once. And we can only control them until they start making their own decisions. And let me tell you, making decisions as a kid is huge, which we don't realize. I have people in my family that they weren't given choices when they were a kid. And so as adults, they still don't know how to make decisions. And I mean, we learn and grow from all of our choices and the decisions we make, whether it's good or bad. So I wish I just would have given in a little sooner.
Well, I mean, hearing you tell the story just shows what a great parent you are. I don't think you're a helicopter parent. I think this is just my own opinion. I think God probably put you on this earth to be an advocate and let people know about what it's like being a trans parent. And you're very smart and you can help make the world better, you know, by being the kind of mom that you have been to Star. And I think you're wonderful. And I really, really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing your story. I know that, unfortunately, there's so many people on this planet that are not kind. And I talk about it a lot. I think we've all gone through our fair share of people being mean to us, just being in the bodies that we're in. So I can't imagine what it's like, if I would have been born feeling like I was in the wrong body, and I just wish people would maybe have a little bit more compassion and think twice before they say or do something unkind or mean to somebody else. So I wanted to see if there was anything else that you wanted to put out there that we didn't talk about that's important to you.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, advocating, right, for Star. And this is the problem. I post things, but I never mention her name when I post those things because there are most of the people at her school don't know. Only some of the teachers and the principals. And so I don't know if that's going to cause, if I post something, I don't know what that will do to her.
Yeah.
In the long run.
Yeah. And that is something that that I can understand that. The one thing that I will say though, is the world is evolving and changing. Like,
yes,
thankfully Star is on the planet when Star's on the planet and it wasn't 20 years ago. Right.
Totally. Oh my
so
goodness, yes.
Just with like the way that media is supportive and more supportive of the trans community and not showing them in a negative light or showing people that, there's actors and actresses that are trans and it's open and,
political party. Political people.
Yes. Yeah. Which is amazing. So what my hope is, and I'm sure your prayers and your hope is by the time Star is an adult, this won't even be a thing.
Right? Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just
wish I could advocate more, on social media, but I feel like she's too young. It's not fair for me to post all about her without her real consent. Because of course now she'd probably be okay with it, but we don't know how she's going to feel in the future,
Yeah, I understand that, but I think, I'm just saying this thinking someday she's going to look back as an adult and be like, wow, I was really loved. My mom really loved me, and my mom really tried hard to make sure that other people accepted me. And that is not the case for so many people. The baggage that we bring into our adulthood is, I talk about it all the time on this podcast. And I think you're amazing. And I think Star is very, very lucky. And I hope one day I get to meet Star and you guys come back out to California, because I just think you're an incredible person. And I thank you so much for sharing your story on my podcast. And in closing, keep living, keep praying, and keep growing.
Judging Meghan with Meghan Judge.